North Carolina State Highway Patrol.
What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor?
A contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency of today.
Rock and roll has got to go.
And welcome back to the Hometown Holler. I'm Daniel Ayers.
And I'm Quinn Ray.
Well, hey, man.
Wearing my Mario outfit today.
You are wearing your Mario outfit today.
Denim, denim, denim.
Oh,
there you go.
okay.
I thought
You just called the mushrooms.
Yes.
Yes.
The mushrooms. No. That was all the that was a setup for
Got your Justin Timberlake outfit going on.
Okay, I that one I don't get that. I don't.
Early
Evidently
2000s, him
Justin
and Brittany
see.
showed up to the VMAs in all denim.
Bless your sweetheart. I was sitting here going, you had such an opportunity there.
No.
You could have went with Brittany. You could have gone with Beyonce. Denim
Yes.
on denim on denim. There were so many options.
And I went with Mario.
Which, you know what, though? Be
Stop the
true
show.
to yourself.
That's right. And I mean, like that was. I appreciate the mushrooms though. That actually was. I hadn't thought about that until you said that. That was good.
Mushrooms.
New mic equipment for those of you listening for the first time. So hopefully we sound better. It peaked a little bit when I said the joke, but I don't know that wasn't a problem, was it?
No, it didn't show over
Awesome.
here.
Cool. Great. Yeah. We got a packed studio today, man.
Yeah, we got our boy Milo who came in here and is doing our sound engineering today. So that's
in the
awesome.
studio, making us sound pretty. And beyond that, we got Tressie Cottom back in the studio, round 2.
Man, this is exciting.
Tressie rides again on the Holler.
That's right.
So for folks who maybe aren't familiar with Tressie, Tressie is a sociologist, author, New York Times columnist. I tell folks there are two kinds of people in this world. There are folks who love Tressie's columns and folks who haven't read them yet. So I think you would agree with me, Quinn, that she is one of the clearest, most insightful voices writing today on modern America, on culture, on history, politics. And today we're going to cover a lot of ground, ranging from a history lesson on the Black Panthers over in Winston-Salem. We're going to chat about one thing I really want to talk about is what liberals miss about Donald Trump, the misconceptions that liberals have about that dude. And then we got a lot of other topics, maybe the role of nostalgia in American politics. We have some other questions that I'll save because I'm not sure if we'll get to them yet. And I don't want to make promises I can't keep.
That
That's a
already
smart
makes
boy.
you very special.
Any hoozles, Tressie, welcome back to the Hometown Holler.
It really is a thrill to be back.
Yeah. And you have been working diligently. I mean, I guess it's wrapped, and I don't know what stage you're in with the documentary, but you've been working really hard on a documentary. Can you maybe we start there? Tell us about that project.
Sure. So the documentary is entitled "Power to the People, Y'all." And the title intends to communicate that there was a Southern presence of the Black Panther Party. And depending on who you talk to, they might have a vague sort of fuzzy idea. But I also talk to a lot of people who think they know about the Black Panther Party and are surprised to learn that there were Southern chapters. The first Southern chapter, and I would argue and am arguing in this documentary, its most sustainable chapter happened to be in the South, and it is right up the road in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The idea that this sort of national people-powered revolutionary movement that we so associate with Oakland, Chicago, New York had a very distinctive Southern presence and flair. I'm arguing that I think the Southernness also made it more resonant. Contributed to how long that chapter has lasted. Certainly not formally. The chapter folded when the National Party folded. But the people who were in that chapter still very much 55 years later still consider themselves comrades, still consider themselves, part of the revolution, are still trying to find ways to make their lives and their life work, part of this like grand political project. And frankly, I needed to hear that. I was like a lot of people the last couple of years, I will say especially the last week or two, feeling deeply despondent about the state of not just American politics. American politics have always been fractured. American politics have always been contentious. I don't have this rosy view of the great era of American politics. It just doesn't exist.
And if you don't believe
That's
her,
right.
just follow her on her socials.
Yeah, I don't believe in it. There's no going back for me. There is only forward. So, I'm not nostalgic about it, but I was feeling despondent about not really seeing where the glimmers were on the horizon. And for somebody like me who very much practices the sort of Ella Baker, practice of pragmatic hope, that was a real problem. If I don't see the glimmers, it's real hard for me to hold it down with the type of hope that I get down with. And I thought, okay, well, who do I know who I think is feeling, if not hopeful, but have been doing the work? And as it turned out, it was very close to home. These people are not only comrades, they are not only North Carolinians, they are not only part of the Revolutionary Vanguard, they are also my family. So
Your mother was?
My mother had been in that chapter.
Wow.
She gets pregnant with me in that chapter. And so in some ways, it was also about me figuring out my origin story, how I came to be. And it brought me back home to Winston-Salem, to my aunt and Uncle Larry Little, who was the leader of the party, Hazel Mack, a charismatic, deeply important figure in the party. That's my auntie. And I knew these people growing up. But I think like a lot of people, how you know the people in your life as a child, the stories they will tell you tend not to give you the big picture.
Sure.
So coming back as a scholar, coming back as a writer, and then a person who kind of is thinking about these big structural issues, it was like I was meeting them
I feel
for
like
the first time.
The coolest projects are, when we get to investigate the things we think we know, like the unknown knowns.
That's exactly
And it's super cool that this was this project had a personal element to it for you. And like you were saying, like, Quinn, you went to an event this summer, right?
I think it was
the taping.
The taping, yeah. I spent a lot of time talking with Brad Lilly there.
Yes.
And it was awesome just to learn that. But going back to what you said earlier about how this wasn't just like a chapter, it was a family. Because I felt that even now when I went, it didn't feel like a reunion. It felt like they hadn't left.
Exactly.
And they still had that sense of belonging as still being comrades. And it was just really cool to see it, especially like I'm a star in the night sky there. I'm definitely not a Black Panther. And the welcomingness of it, and then the willingness for folks to talk to me about the history of it and what it meant to them. And I was asking Brad specifically, like, why the Black Panthers, right? Like you grew up in a time where you could have been radicalized anywhere and doing what you want to do. And he was like, they were the ones that made me feel like I belonged to my community instead of making me feel like I needed to belong to another community.
Oh, come on.
He was already
Brad.
in the right place.
That is exactly it. So much of the story about the South and how we don't remember the radical people movements, people power that happened in the South is that there's an idea that to be revolutionary, you needed to leave the South.
Right.
That people who stayed in the South did so because they were afraid, because they were passive, especially Black Southerners, that they were somehow too cowardly, let me be very honest, to go to New York, to go to Harlem, to go to Oakland, right? And in fact, the opposite is true, that building where you live is both far more meaningful, I think, than trying to organize someplace where you are a stranger, and also so much harder. I think about what you all do here with this podcast. Talking to a national audience, it comes with some risk, but there's some distance there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And talking to strangers. It is much harder to have a hard conversation with people you then have to see at the Piggly Wiggly.
People who raised you.
The Piggly Wiggly.
Well, I just think everything goes down at the Piggly
No,
Wiggly.
for sure.
So this is a much harder work. It is more violent, right? One of the things that comes out of this documentary and talking to Larry Little is, the Black Panthers didn't, think that the South could be organized because Black Southerners couldn't do it. They thought it was too violent. They thought the Klan was too violent, that the Klan was too institutionalized, and the police and the legal system, they thought it was too violent. The fact that these young people, ages 15, 16 to the 20s, looked at that, a deeply violent place, and decided to cast their buckets where they were, all right, and stay and do a revolution at home is the exact antithesis of being afraid and being passive.
And how did they do that? How did they create this sense of belonging? Because I think right now in white America, and I wrote my senior thesis on this one, like Black Power. Yeah. And I think when you speak to a white American and you say Black Power or the Black Panthers, they instantly go to this militant thought
You've seen
process.
Forrest Gump.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, everyone.
I forgot about that scene. Yeah.
And
I don't know how I forgot that.
How did the Black Panthers understand the power of politics and the dignity of belonging?
Oh, the dignity of belonging is perfectly said. While some of the comrades, left home, they go to grad school. And one of the things I find interesting is how many of them tried to take what they learned in the party with them into the professions, right? But they all came back home. They're all back, right? I think that says a lot about the dignity of belonging and what happens when you don't have it somewhere else. One of the things that is really deeply resonated with me is exactly that. Is so many people focus on the guns and the violence. And I want to be clear. I don't think that they should be ashamed or distance themselves from that. Armed resistance is part of revolutions. But what they talk about the most that has sustained them for 55 years is the sense of community love. They talk about the community loved us, Tressie. They say this over and over again. They came home because their people loved them and they loved their people. There is, to me, no greater religious tradition, no greater commonality across all people, across this world and across space and time than the idea of loving people and serving them. And so what gave them the sense of belonging and what gave them a foundation to build on that just, again, 55 years, man, that's a lifetime. You only do that if you've got a deep sense that you are serving people. You don't do that, right? Nobody takes up arms and fights a military battle every day for 55 years. You love people for 55 years.
And I would argue, too, that as much as it was, I guess, protection, it was also a symbol to show the community that we are worth being seen.
That's right.
And so we're going to do this to be seen. And going to what you're saying with this love and the continuous of what they've done for the 55 years, after, again, speaking with Mr. Lilly, he became a pastor.
That's right.
And then his church, he continued these programs. He continued doing the feeding. He continued helping the community. And when you had programs like that the Panthers initiated, it made people, in my opinion, feel that they belonged because they not only were receiving, they were also giving. Oh, it was a two-way street.
All of them can rattle off their sayings and, their sort of tenets, in everyday conversations. And I know Hazel said, I truly believe, she said, I carried with me what we used to say every day in the party, which was, you take neither needle nor thread from the people. Meaning you do not take, you give. You give until it hurts, and then you give a little more, right?
This ties back into something we recently had Raina Walters Morgan on the podcast, vice chair of the DNC. Yeah. And a conversation, as a question, a plea that I gave to her, shared with her was, why doesn't, and I use the Democratic Party as an example, but it could be any political party, why don't these organizations with giant fundraising apparatuses give shit away? Just go to people, because there's so many people in need right now, everywhere, urban, rural, north, south, east, west, whatever. And just, you have a canvassing infrastructure, knock on somebody's door and say, what do you not have that you need right now?
Yeah.
Baby formula, diapers, like what is it? I can't imagine what the polls would look like if a major political organization put their infrastructure to that use for 6 months.
Historian Mary Berry said to me many years ago, I met her in Richmond, Virginia, just by happenstance, run into her in a bookstore. We end up having dinner together. I know. And she was lovely and welcoming, and I'll never forget her saying, we forgot that you are supposed to do something for people. She said the idea that when people line up to vote, and they've got to stand in line for several hours because gerrymandering and et cetera make it difficult to vote.
Don't give them water.
Yeah, don't give them water.
She's
like, how brutal and inhumane we've made the process of participating. She said, voting should be that one time you're not hungry all year.
Right. Yeah.
She said we should be feeding people. We should not just be allowed to. That should be the culture and the process. Well, of course, we know why it isn't, right? But I do think there's something to the fact that when, when Hoover decides that the Black Panther Party is the most dangerous organization in the country, it actually isn't because of guns. The United States has got more guns than any small Black community in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is ever going to have. What they were afraid of was exactly that. It was the care. It was the food.
The goodwill.
It was the protecting you when you were illegally evicted from your home. It was the clothing. It was the health care that they were providing for people.
Doing the job of the state.
Doing the job of the state delegitimizes the state. And the people will then start to turn to each other, and that is a threat when you don't want those people to self-organize. It really is as simple as that. I don't think that most political parties, especially not in our two-party system, want to be a threat to the system they're trying to run.
Oh, hell no.
So they don't go help people because that's a threat.
It makes sense. I mean, they send more mailers.
Oh, yeah. Listen, if I get another, especially in this moment in time, I said, how dare you be fundraising on this level of crisis? I actually think that it's beyond, it's no longer undignified. It is now, I think, just deeply disrespectful to people.
And when there's not a clear pathway forward.
That's right. You're not telling people what to believe in.
Yeah. You're just telling me money is going to get me to this next point.
That's right. And it hasn't gotten us there yet.
So the Panthers seemed to know that these resources alone just weren't enough.
Yeah.
Right. So that people wanted recognition, people wanted to be worthy, people wanted to be seen. So that tension still feels alive today. People voted last year because they didn't want their granddaughter to go against a boy and girl sports, right? The whole trans issue. And I think people constantly vote against their well-being economically just so they can feel a part of something. And so that will give you acceptability when you're in a group with stuff, and you can present yourself as like, you can dress up nice with Walmart clothes. People may know it, but you're going to be accepted into the formal wear of dinner, right? So presenting to becoming accepted, and when you're accepted, you get to be
access.
You get access to things.
I think that when the economy is as brutal as it is, right? So I always get the math wrong because I think this is still 1994. But, whatever this is, we're like 50, 60 years of neoliberalism, which really that entire project is about making it harder and more difficult to work. Just more and more friction, right? How much time do you spend now trying to get your insurance card to work? How much time do you spend now trying to keep your resume constantly up to date? How much time, right? Just more and more friction. When that happens, I think it is logical, but somehow invisible in our national discourse, that what people are looking for is exactly that, a sense of safety and belonging. That only becomes more powerful the more friction we have in our economic system. And that cuts across race. One of the reasons why people continue to just be baffled about the Trump coalition is because that is happening to everybody. Right? We have run out of privileged workers for whom we can protect from the vicissitudes of the market. Now everybody's experiencing it. People with master's degrees are having roughly the same experience of that labor market as people with a high school diploma. Yeah, different jobs, different earnings, but it feels just as bad. When that happens, they're going to see some commonalities start to emerge. Now, here's what could have happened. You can organize around those commonalities. That's actually been the left, and I would argue, depending on how you define liberal, the left and left liberal argument for a long time. They abandoned the idea that you should organize around that, though, because we just don't respect culture as being powerful. I will tell you who does respect it.
Tell us.
The right respects culture. They are kicking our butts with culture.
A certain culture.
Yeah, but that's the same thing.
Okay.
It's still culture.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Fair.
can argue about whose culture. That's arguably, actually, I think what's happening. We're arguing about whose culture should be preserved. But they have organized around culture. Yeah, they throw out economic arguments, rationales, but that's ad hoc. They're not doing, what they're really saying is, come here, you'll belong, we'll give you an ideology later. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that makes...
So why are we so afraid to organize around culture? Well, we don't like the people that show up when culture is on our side. We don't like the music they play. We don't like them food they eat. We don't like how they dress.
Right.
To your point.
The big tent and the people. We don't like the big tent.
Yeah, we don't want to go to that party.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
To make the implicit explicit, when we say we don't like, we mean I'm thinking of educated, upper middle class liberals would prefer not to live next door to people of a different race, people of a different religion.
We like it in theory.
In theory, exactly. Yeah.
In practice, when people show up, whether that is where we live, where we go to school, where we work, where we congregate, where we organize, in practice, I've seen it on the ground time and time again, where these, very strong theoretical coalitions. Yeah, we believe, in this house. We believe, all right? And then you invite them out to an event, and I don't know, maybe the person that you agree with doesn't speak quite the way you wish they did. Yeah. Or, they bring food items that you find foreign to you, right? Whatever it is, you'll see these things start to crumble. And that's an old story, of course, about trying to organize. But I will say that the other side has figured out a way to hold their nose around those fault lines for the sense of belonging.
Is it because they all look the same?
That is certainly a large part of it. And also because they can look the same. Like I'm going to be, so like that is an achievable kind of look. So when you're starting with, it isn't just that they're all white, by the way, although obviously,
that's what I thought you were saying.
Well, I mean, there was, because I was going back to one of your passages in Thick, when you're talking about an older hippie can cut his hair and get into a senior level job, and he can wash away his revolutionary youngsters when elder Black Panther Party can't wash that away and can't look different and can't present different, and that stigma always stays with them. And so I'm thinking, to me, that makes it hard for people on the left side, because we categorize ourselves in theory as this big tent, but we don't like it because we're like, man, we got an old radical Black Panther showing up here, where people on the right, they're falling in line and they can look similar.
Yeah, let me tell you a story. I'm in graduate school, and I was at the time, I think I was the only Black woman in my program at the time, which is not the point of the story, I promise you, except that one of my closer colleagues, a colleague I was particularly close with, was of Hispanic descent, and we would sometimes go get lunch together. This is in Atlanta, Georgia, so we're in the South. So the racial dynamics of that matter.
Double South. The
South to South. The South to South.
Yeah, the South to South.
And we were coming back from lunch in the cafeteria one day, and I had a little chit chat with the older Black woman who was at the register. This woman is the same everywhere.
How old are you?
Working the register at the CAF in a university is always the same, right? I would have been right at 30.
Okay.
So we weren't young kids. So we're leaving them. We were coming back, and she said, they only talk to me that way. She meant with familiarity. She said, when I am with you. Being in proximity to you makes my Hispanicness more obvious to other people. I bring up this story because I think what you are pointing out there is that there is a, stigma tends to bleed out a little. And I do think that whether people will acknowledge it or not, on the left, they know that being in proximity to people who are stigmatized is foreclosing on their opportunity to leave should it get too hot. Right.
I see.
I think there is I talk to like career organizers, many of whom are white and are my very good friends. And they say, I can't go back now to sort of straight, centrist middle class life because I've done this work too long with people who are stigmatized. I've worked with too many poor people at this point. I have brought too many Black and brown people to too many meetings. Right. I'm now considered locked in. Yeah. And I think that like what people are trading, we talk so much about what white people are losing when they enter in those coalitions. And we don't have a clear sense of what they gain, which I have just always argued is, well, you get more humanity.
Sure.
I do think you get a better party, but okay, I'll leave that one up for debate. But I think I do think that is a valuable exchange, but we just don't talk about that. And I think people feel a profound sense of loss of being close to something that might stigmatize.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see in this the fruits of neoliberalism and reducing everything to what will make me more marketable, what will allow me to increase my my bottom line.
That's right. Even in organizing, even in politics, even in coalition building, we very much treat it as a LinkedIn project.
Yeah.
Man, which is weird because isn't it like the left's motto is like the we, not me? And then, man, do we not have that underlying tone still? How's this going to help me get to that next level?
I saw Kienga Yamada-Taylor give a talk not too long ago where she said for those activists and organizers who came up during this last 15 years when Black Lives Matter and Me Too was deeply ascendant and there was this sort of liberal corporate coalition that was funding things like crazy. She said, you've actually never organized before. The money was too easy and you treated activism like a career. We're now getting ready to find out, she said, who can actually organize, and you're getting ready to experience what activism actually is.
Well, you mean organizing isn't going to a BLM rally and taking a selfie and posting it on Facebook and Instagram and saying, I'm an ally?
I would argue that no, it is not.
Okay.
And I would argue that strongly, in fact.
But I'm organizing my friends to come with me, Tressie.
In some ways, I kind of blame electoral politics for this. I don't know if you guys remember that moment. It might have been 2008-ish when all of a sudden, everybody would get online and announce their endorsement.
Oh, yeah.
Just regular people.
I was 13 doing that. I remember that.
Of course,
I actually remember being. That was when I remember I remember because I turned 13. Look, dating. I turned 13 in 2008, and I had really thought carefully about who I was going to endorse. Bill Clinton came to Elon. I saw Bill Clinton speak. I saw Hillary when she came to Graham. I never saw Obama, but when I remember logging on my Facebook account as a 13-year-old and being like, well, it's time for me to put my thumb on the scales.
That's right. The people need to know.
Time to swing some votes.
And that was, and there was some science beneath that, which is they were using this new thing, the internet, and now you network and turn everybody into a micro bundler, We were all supposed to go out and get our 10 friends to give us $5 each. You remember this moment?
It makes it easy.
But what happened in there, I think, is this idea that, yes, electoral politics could be networked just like any other identity. You could put it on, take it off when it was convenient. But that's not the same thing as organizing people, right? Organizing people actually is still a cultural project. You've got to invite them into something, right? We love to ask people to come, put your bodies on the line, show up. And then I'll ask people, have you ever had these people over for food?
What makes you feel like you belong?
Oh, it's a great question and a hard one these days as institutions are becoming more hostile, as I think it is more dangerous for me to do my work in public.
You're in two very embattled institutions.
Oh, yeah.
At the New York
chose
Times,
poorly, my friend.
In academia, you are beleaguered on you're fighting a two-front war.
Let me just tell you, there was a time when I thought I was actually playing those two off each other. What naive days.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah. I thought, if this whole, academic thing doesn't work out, there will be the media.
That's right.
Yeah. As it turns out, those things are deeply, inextricably linked to each other. So, yeah, I am. And I am feeling it more seriously, deeply on both of those sides. And so I have to ask myself, okay, whose team am I on? Who are my people? Because I think that's an important question anytime, but I think it's a critical question right now.
Yeah.
I feel a sense of belonging, certainly in my personal life, with my family. It's probably where I feel the most accepted and I belong. But our values as a family is deeply embedded in union and collective organizing. And so when you come to an event like you did where we held the filming for the documentary in Winston-Salem, I deliberately organized that as a reunion. Even though, like you said, these people knew each other. But I wanted that because that's when I feel the most welcome.
It felt like everybody just picked up.
They did. I was the only one who needed the reunion. All these people on group chats together, right? They just rolled out in their good clothes that day. I was the one who needed the cookout, as it turned out. But that's where I feel very much at home there and like I belong. But I am, like a lot of people, I am working very hard right now on being honest about that. I am articulating this with people in a way I never had before. I sent a message out to a couple of people just a month or so ago and said, in case I've never said this, if you call me, I will answer. You're on my list of people I consider a real person. Because I'll be honest with you, I think right now where so much has been captured, the consolidation in media is probably one of the most terrifying things that I have seen. And I'm not sure that's bubbling up to the surface, by the way, but we are very close to like 2-3 families owning every media, and I mean both social media and legacy media, owning it all, and network. And I think that matters in a moment when there's such rapid consolidation happening politically. And I think it is very terrifying. I think that what is going to matter now is you better know who your people are, and don't be confused about that. So I'm still working on that, I think a little more broadly than like my family.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's an important question.
I mean, sitting in Chapel Hill, which is a very hot fire bed here in North Carolina.
Yep.
I mean, how do you do it? Like, do you, when you're writing something down, I mean, you write whatever you want to write in your book, but then when you present it, do you now second guess yourself of should I say this or can I say this?
Constantly. But the decision...
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel like I belong if I got to do that.
No, the decision, however, to write, one thing I have always been clear about is that institutions provide me a relationship. It's an exchange. But who I am is never part of the exchange. Now, that makes for some difficult conversations. I will not lie. I have to tell the people close to me, listen, this is the price of being close to me. At the end of the day, I answer to what I think I have to say honestly. I think that's the deal I've made with the creator, the whatever's bigger than me, to whatever got me here. I know now, in this moment, I know that what those potential consequences are. And you just have to go, the best I can do is to go into that with my eyes wide open. But no, I absolutely feel that more than I ever have in my life. I also am constantly worried that I'm endangering the people I love. I've absolutely had situations where a sitting member of U.S. Congress calls my mother's cell phone just to show me that they can do it.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well,
that is like the definition of small dick energy.
Yeah, death
that is like the most
threats
insecure.
are one thing. I've been getting death threats for 15 years. That's one thing, right? I mean, it mattered, but like you kind of get a sense. But you get a sense of like, okay, somebody just wrote me right. What has changed over the last few years? One is how many people are willing to put their names to these things, which I think is terrifying because it says that they think there's no rule of law. And I suspect they're right, by the way.
And they don't care that you...
And they don't care. That's right, because they know that they think there's nothing I can do about it. And how much of that has come from official channels.
Whoa.
That has increased, and that never existed before the last 3 years, not in my work.
I feel like that's what people need to hear more about. You know, we talked to some academics recently, and the shit we heard, and I'd like to think I read the news. I'd like to think that I'm pretty informed.
Yeah.
Some of the things I heard about what people in academia are experiencing from formal institutional channels.
Yes.
Blew my. I mean, it was, and I literally Orwellian.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, man, like, if only, I mean, if only everybody could hear this, could know this.
Yeah.
It just.
And we asked them that, like, can you say this? And they're like, no, like, we can't talk about this.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time right here for us to pause and acknowledge we all have liquor in our hands, and we should have a swig and do this.
Let's do it. Yep. Is it champagne for our real friends and real pain for our sham friends?
Never heard this in my life, but okay.
I'm curious to talk a little bit about. I mentioned at the top of the show what liberals miss about Trump. Like that has been, and I'm probably
like you mean like swing and miss, not like
I hear so many bad takes.
Well, you don't mean like what liberals miss about Apprentice Trump. And like, what do you mean miss?
When I say miss, I mean I think he is so misunderstood by so many people who frankly think they understand him. And I'm not even saying I'm not the master of I have no idea what's going through that man's head, right?
Yeah.
But
well, for the record, that's what I think the problem is. I think that it's people thinking that there is some essential truth that we can only know.
There's a grand theory of Trump.
Understand him psychologically. I think that is very American of us to rely on psychology to explain social action.
Yeah.
Sure, we all have personalities. Sure, we all have personality traits. Sure, we all have some trauma, right? I'm sure we have all of those things. But even psychologists will tell you that when it comes to what you do, right, it doesn't always matter who you are and what you believe. This is a poverty of our understanding of what actual politics is. Politics is not just the aggregation of personalities.
What is it?
Politics is what you do. Politics is all social fact, which in my world means I don't care what you think. I care what you do. Right? I don't care that you believe in my humanity. You voted against it. That's right. I don't care. But we think we can get beneath that to what a person really thinks and believes. Doesn't matter. Here's what we know. We have a series, I don't think a sitting American president has ever produced as much a corpus of social facts as this president has, and yet we just refuse to believe them and read them as such.
When you say social facts, we're talking
his decisions, his actions. That's right. What do you mean you don't understand? We have a corpus that we usually have to wait for a president to be dead 30 years before we get all of this. He has produced volumes of what he will do, would do, and imagines doing. The real problem here is that we do not want to trust it. We don't want to believe it. Because if we believe what Trump says he is,
oh boy,
right, then we have to believe and accept some things about our American system.
This sounds like a toxic relationship.
It is.
Right?
But
like,
again,
I don't want to believe the person that I'm.
That's right.
Yeah, because then I'll actually have to.
Because then we also don't want to believe that the people we love, who like him and support him,
right,
are the people that they say they are. And then we don't want to believe that the organizations where we have derived so much of our sense of belonging, our churches, our social groups, that they aren't who they said they are. And then we have to accept that this whole thing has been far more fragile than we were ever led to believe. That checks and balances, yes, had a lot of bureaucratic steps and processes, but beneath it all, our system has been held together by a system of norms, right? And those were far more fragile than we were willing to accept. And I think we are, it's like growing up and realizing that the person who was responsible for keeping you alive for 17, 18 years wasn't the brightest bulb in the box. It's terrifying.
And it's for me, how I've experienced this or kind of come to this is through teaching civics and realizing none of this stuff actually applies. Yeah. Like I'm teaching how the system is supposed to work and the checks and balances.
Oh, what a difficult time.
And then somebody, a student will come in and be like, hey, this thing happened in the news and it totally turns everything you just set up. Like none of that makes sense now, right. You know, like
there's always a loophole, right?
And it's gotten to a point where, yeah, like I have to kind of say, well, this is in theory what's going on, but honestly, it's all been held together with like a wink and a nod and some kind of tacit agreement that I'll do anything for power, but I won't do that.
Yeah.
And that's my Meatloaf reference.
I was about to say, I love that song, but
it's a killer, dude. Like like 9 minutes of sheer rock and roll opera.
I love it.
Have you seen the music video?
Yes, of course
it is
I have.
An amazing music video.
Art.
Dashboard lights
is what it is,
dude.
So I appreciated that one. Thank you very much. But yeah, I've just read something earlier today of a teacher who said they teach politics like sort of like a 101, you know, and they said this year they cannot trust that the law will be what at the end of the semester what it was at the beginning, so they're not doing a final. Wow. There's no final in that class, he said, because I can't trust. Well, it'll be there. So he's just doing like midterms every couple weeks instead.
One of the things I hear constantly from folks who oppose Donald Trump, and I guess this is kind of fishing here because I really, we've talked about this before, and I want other folks to hear your take on this, is the whole like, he's an idiot.
Oh yeah, I hate this line.
I hate that line too, but you can frame your take on it way better than I ever could. So when people say Donald Trump is an idiot, what is your response to that? My
response is, if you're kicking my ass, I'm going to find a way to make you smart.
Break that down.
Yeah. You're letting an idiot win? If he's that dumb, an idiot can break. First of all, I'm going to apologize for all of this horrible ableist language we're about to use. But like, if you kick my butt, I'm figuring out a way that you are stronger, faster, better. Because one, that is a horrible reflection on me. Now that we could say me, the person, but also me, the system. You mean to tell me that this system was so fragile and so poorly designed and has all this time just been floating on vibes that someone that you think is just a useful idiot could break it this effectively? Trump 2.0, by the way, which I distinguished this administration from his first one. Trump 2.0 is one of the most brutally efficient things I have ever seen in my life, either with my eyes or that I have read in history. fine, he's an idiot, but then what does that make us?
Isn't it like 50% of Project 2025 is already complete?
Yeah,
right
that's
now?
what I just read the same statistic
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah, for the record, I haven't like verified, but it came from a reputable source. And I think if you've even just been paying attention, that seems about right.
Sure.
This is one of the most efficient. You just look at the way this administration is even disbanding something very close to my home, which is higher education. The first time it was all culture wars, right? Like we said, the horrible attack on trans students, et cetera. Culture war stuff, though. This time we've got both the culture war stuff, and yet for somebody who has studied higher education the way that I have, the most efficient attack on what underpins the system that I ever could have imagined, going after accreditation, going after higher education's financing. That's the attack on international students and on the grant structure. When you put those two things together, being able to dismantle higher education that efficiently, that's not stupid, right? That is a brutally efficient plan. Now, whether it is his plan or Voight's or Stephen Miller's, really to me is irrelevant. The person with the power to execute it is executing. And I think if we get caught up in, again, this goes back to our obsession with personality and psychology, right? That there's some inherent flaw. So what if there is or isn't? What matters is this is working.
Right.
Let's focus on why it's working, and then we can do the postmortem later.
Yeah, it doesn't do any good to just say he's an idiot.
No, and it's self-aggrandizing. And frankly, we haven't earned the right to flatter
Fair.
ourselves.
Well, and back to what I liked your point of saying, like, who cares whose plan it is if it's not him, right?
That's right.
It's still saying he's an idiot and acknowledging he's not the one doing it. It's Stephen Miller doing
That's
it.
right.
Who cares?
I mean,
right?
you hired
it's
the good
happening.
samurai. Does that make you that much different from the samurai? I'm not sure what these distinctions are. What that really is a way, I think, for people
Did you say
to...
that because you're drinking Japanese whiskey?
You know what? Maybe.
It might have been.
That's the way my mind works. So absolutely, that's possible.
Yeah.
And it's really good. I love the Centauris. We talked about this, by the way. The Centauris are totally kicking our butt, y'all, in whiskeys. I'm just going to put that out there. I know that's controversial, but it's real good. But yeah, so like, it doesn't matter who is the sensei, who is the samurai. It doesn't matter.
Right.
One word that's been on my mind, honestly, for like years now, but very recently, because of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, was disaster nationalism.
Yes.
And this is something I to be honest, I'm not sure if you've written on it. I feel like
Well, the book is on my coffee table.
Okay.
At home.
I've seen you post a lot about it.
Yeah, my partner and I've read it, and we talk about it a lot. It is a merging of two ideas that I think, yes, that's about where we are.
Could we talk very briefly about, I think it's a helpful concept for a lot of folks to familiarize themselves with.
Oh, God, I want to do it justice, so help me out here. I would have flipped through if I came in. But so it's the merging of creating crisis and then creating a nationalist vacuum to exploit the crisis. So using disaster to further nationalism and vice versa. So I think a good example of this is Donald Trump's seizure, encampment, whatever, of rolling out federal troops into American cities, right? Which we can all agree. But the way that he does that is he creates crisis.
In that, in Washington, D.C., there were none of the things that he was describing in terms of a crime-ridden hellscape, anarchy, it's Mad Max, you can't, walk down the street with your dog, whatever. It's a manufactured crisis with a goal of...
One, of conditioning people to accept this violation, both of rule of law and of norms.
To make it normal.
Right. It is also deeply profitable. So there's underlying here, there's a lot of profit motivations. So
financial?
Yeah.
Like money
yes. The expansion of ICE in the big, beautiful bill, it is the largest investment that this government has ever made into a policing apparatus.
I was reading somewhere that over a certain period of time, ICE's budget is now larger than the Marine Corps.
That is correct. Yeah.
That's insane.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And there is no enemy to fight except for American people.
Right.
This is not an externally focused agency. It is internal. So to justify that expenditure, you have to create crises for them to respond to, right? Yes, that generates a lot of money, which then generates lots of government contracts for corporations who, sell everything from drones to surveillance technology, right? So it's creating a market. So there's a market underpinning that crisis. So you've got the economic rationale, and then it also serves to make the leader of that paramilitary force undeniable, right? You need a strong man. You need a unified leader. Times are too dangerous for us to have, free and fair elections. Times are too dangerous for us to quibble over executive overreach, right? It is creating a crisis to suspend everything from the Bill of Rights, but also our belief in the electoral process.
This is going to take us in a pretty dismal direction, but I'm curious, like one of the things that I'm thinking about historically is you're describing the situation as like the Reichstag fire, where there's national crisis, the government comes in, suspends norms, uses it to persecute opposition. We've heard recently J.D. Vance, Kash Patel talking about going after political opponents.
Pam Bondi, everybody all the way to Laura Loomer.
Trying to exploit Charlie Kirk's murder to do some pretty just thoroughly anti-American and anti-constitutional things.
In the name of safety.
In the name of nationalism.
Yeah, in the name of nationalism.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Safety is nationalist, and nationalism is about safety.
And I guess I'm curious, do you feel that to like use the Reichstag fire as kind of a barometer, right? The event that kind of took what was a flawed democracy and pushed it fully into authoritarianism. Have we had ours? I mean, maybe it's too soon to know for sure, but like we're on the highway to hell. How many exit ramps do you think we might have left?
Yeah, I like to say to people, right, this is a project, unfortunately, for historians, right? This is for hindsight about what was the tipping point, et cetera. I have always believed, and since I'm a sociologist, that means I'm just a bad historian. So I don't know, right? I don't know if we have hit it. I can tell you this. I think that whenever norms become hyper-visible, so the whole thing about a norm is that you never have to think about it. Right? That's the power of it. Because nobody can live in a complex world making 50 decisions a day to just execute a normal life. I would ask our listeners how often now, however, they ask themselves 50 questions just to do a basic social interaction.
That's so, I mean, I'm thinking about in terms of when we create content and when we are doing anything related to the podcast, we at so many steps of the way are asking questions that go far beyond what will be fun, what will be interesting, but more of just like, what's safe?
Is this safe?
What's safe?
We're in grocery stores, we are at, music in the park, and I think we are now asking ourselves questions like, what kind of hat is that? It's red, but what does it say on the front? What does those stripes mean on the shirt? Is that just the logo for the shirt? What does that mean? There are apps now to very quickly tell us whether or not that tattoo or that thing means this, right? Those are questions we are not designed to ask ourselves constantly every day. I bring this up because when norms become hyper-visible, it is because they have already been broken.
So would you say, like, what role does nostalgia play into all of this, right? So when we're talking about what liberals are missing and then this disaster nationalism, I go to like McCarthyism, right? And the Red Scare and stuff like that. And nostalgia is a weapon of privileged memory, right? That is just fabricated.
Right. There's no glorious 1950s. Right?
So what you're saying is to have nostalgia, you have to be part of a group that has something to claim to be nostalgic about. Is that, am I?
Right, yeah. It's an imaginary time that's not forgotten but manufactured.
Yeah. When your fear of the future is so great that you are willing to go back to a past that was bad enough for people to want to change it, right? That is more about your fear than it is about how great the past was. And so nostalgia has always been, is a conservative force, meaning not conservative like politics, but like it makes you think conservatively. Right. Sure. So when you start getting nostalgic, if you've ever seen like the people in your family as they get older, right, and they start remembering, oh, my family loves to get together and talk about how good the vegetables used to taste. And they don't taste that way anymore. I ain't had a real tomato in 50 years. right? Well, what they don't mention is that they were sharecroppers and how hard the labor is of picking those tomatoes and how much went into, and they would have killed to be able to go to a grocery store that had 50 varieties of tomato, right?
A GMO tomato.
Nostalgia is a conservative force, no matter who you are. That's across race, that's across class, all of that. The difference is, depending on where you are on the hierarchy, nostalgia is not as easy to reach for. So yes, nostalgia is a function of privilege. It's also a function of fear. That's why it's super powerful for authoritarians to use it, right? Because you can tap into people's emotions for a time that, yes, actually was for them, maybe better, but it comes at a great cost to other groups of people who now, who didn't used to be able to participate in that point in history. So I just had someone ask me recently, are you saying that, we should go back to a time like before the internet? I think this was a question about AI or something. I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to ask you, who was before good for?
Right.
Was it better for women who couldn't vote and who were considered still a legal extension of their fathers or their husbands? Was it better for sharecroppers, for migrant work? Who was it better for?
I think a lot of people think, well, that doesn't sound fun to me, but at the time, it was all people knew, and that was what they were happy about.
They wanted innocence. They want a plausible.
I think of like Andy
ignorance.
Griffith, right? Like Mayberry. People look back and they're like, well, sure, there were some things that in hindsight weren't great for
like
everybody.
No black people in Mayberry.
Right. But that was what people knew. And it was like the Garden of Eden. Like we were all kind of blissfully ignorant. And that's what we want to return to. A time when like we didn't have to the world's complicated.
So again, this is about the fact that we now have to think about our norms.
That's exactly what
because to your point, I'm going to come back to this. To your point, I don't know. Have we made the authoritarian turn? Well, you ask me. Are you now romantic about a time when you didn't have to think about norms? That's a pretty good evidence to me that something has been fundamentally broken, and the only thing that can usually break that is an extreme application of force and power. So I'm going to say the fact that you are nostalgic for a time that was as brutally oppressive when we were living under, this thing we do where we always want to look to Germany for examples of fascism. I'm like, well, or you can look to Mississippi in 1949, right? So if you want to get romantic about what was for some group of people one of the most oppressive times in their lived experienced history, that should tell you that, yes, something authoritarian has happened.
I should clarify, I am in no way, shape, or form nostalgic for the America of yesteryear.
And to be fair, I grew up watching Mayberry with my grandmother and my mother, who actually are deeply nostalgic for it because people are complicated human beings. And I know every single episode of Mayberry.
And then you turn it off when it turned color?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's when it got bad.
So I was talking with Milo and Daniel earlier, and how do we, so I think this goes on to with the nostalgia and memory, and I think they're two different. I think memory and nostalgia are different.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's why we fight over memory. We use nostalgia to blunt memory.
That's right. But when you ask questions, you say, why me and not my grandmother? How do we, I don't want to ask, I don't need you, well, I do need you, but I'm not wanting you to right now because I know you're just going to go off on me about it. I don't want to give you give a prescription for us to do this. But how do you think we can move collectively as a society or community using that same term? Like, why me and not my grandmother?
Yeah.
Because I think that battles nostalgia.
Well, I got to ask that, and I haven't heard you use that question in context. What does that mean? The meaning's not evident.
Oh, this is a wonderful
throwback
to a line from one of my essays in Thick, where I say I ask all of the time. Like there's nothing really different between me and my grandmother. She may have been a bit more of an introvert than I am, but she's the smartest person I knew. She was what today we would have called like an organic intellectual, a huge reader, a magnificent pattern spotter, all things that I think of as being my own skill set. And yet I am who I am today, and my grandmother dies in a senior living home in Red Springs, North Carolina. The difference there isn't about our ability, it's about what was possible for us. It's about the structural possibility for us. And that if I'm constantly asking that question, I think it does a couple of things. One, it does not confuse me that my achievements are just about my hard work. So that helps me stay in community with people right, who I have far more in common with once you strip away the awards or the income. I have far more in common with working class people in this country, despite the fact that I'm at the New York Times, despite the fact that I'm a professor. But if I start to believe that there was something just uniquely talented and smart about myself, right? And so keeping a check on the fact that, no, it's about what's possible for you. Then my next question becomes, oh, how did that become possible for me? Oh, well, a lot of people fought and died. Well, then I owe a responsibility to other people. So it comes with it, I think, a set of questions that keeps a check on me about to whom am I responsible?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I think it battles nostalgia coming in, because when nostalgia wants to come in, it makes you check yourself of being like, who is this better for?
Yeah.
When was this a good time?
I think especially when women ask that of themselves, there's never been a better time to be a woman, ever. Yeah. Nostalgia for a 1950s traditional wife, go ask your grandmother. Yeah. Who, by the way, raised your mother to raise you so that you wouldn't be like them, by and large.
And now we're going back
they
to
said, keep you some purse money, honey, because I couldn't. Make sure your name is on the mortgage, baby, because I couldn't, right? Go ask them, right? Well, you will do that if you maybe stop asking again. We're obsessed with the self and psychology, right? Stop asking about what's so special about yourself and instead ask questions about, oh, why are these things possible for me? And who am I responsible to because of that? I think that leads us to a set of questions that maybe gets at your first question to me today, which is, where do I feel a sense of belonging? I think our level of disconnect, by the way, men aren't the only ones lonely and detached. They just are more violent when they are. All of us are lonely and detached. And I think it is precisely because we don't ask those questions. My partner has this wonderful saying where he says, freedom is responsibility. He said, the more responsible I am to other people, the more free I am. Think about this all the time. We are taught to run sort of from responsibility. It's a claim on our time. Take back your time. And there might be some benefit to that. But the more responsible we are to other people, perversely, the more freedom we have to be ourselves. And I think the sense of detachment we have, the loneliness, the isolation, the anomie in my fancy academic language, is because we have said we shouldn't be responsible to anybody but our ideal self.
We define freedom as I have the freedom to sit alone in DoorDash.
That's
while
exactly
I
right.
Watch my
and
Amazon Prime.
Poor expression of freedom. That's exactly right. I have the freedom to be as depressed as I want to be. I have the freedom to be as lonely as I want to be. That's so pitiful. And
that ties into something. I know we're coming up on time, but we at the very beginning talked very briefly about the trend in society that you find very concerning. I think a lot of people look at it and just by the sheer numbers think, oh, that's progress, or that there's some silver lining to this. Oh, yeah. Young people are drinking less and they're having less sex.
And less desire for romantic relationships. Yeah, I'd wrap all that in there.
Right,
yeah.
all together, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that concerns you.
Yeah.
Why?
And not as like I don't think I'm becoming a boomer, although y'all help me keep a check on this. But I was saying to you earlier, there's really...
Boomers don't power lift like you do.
Thank you very much. Tell the people.
10 points.
Tell the people. Thank you.
She did not pay Quinn to say that. That was...
but I would have. I power lift big time. In part, yes, to fight against this, and because I think that, whenever whatever happens, somebody's going to need to be strong, and that's going to be my job. Okay, so I think I worry about if young people were not doing risky sexual behaviors or taking illicit drugs because they had found some other sense of belonging and other places were
replaced self-destructive behaviors. That's a different story.
It's a different story. When in fact, what I think we see is that the reason why they're not risking attachment, because there's a lot of risk in pursuing someone, wanting someone, right? There's a lot of risk in going to the party where there may be drugs. There's risk. And what I think we have is a generation of people who are risk adverse to the point of being paralyzed out of social relationships. I think they are withdrawing from risk because they are anxious and they are afraid. And I think the data kind of bears that out. And just honestly, my everyday experience of them bears that out.
With students, you mean?
Yeah, they don't know what decision is the right decision because we have told them that there's such a thing as right and wrong, when in fact, the only thing any of us can ever do is make the best decision we can with the information we have. That's about risk.
And commit to it.
And say, that's right. I know I don't know everything I don't know. I'm going to risk it anyway.
God, I feel like this. I feel like I know so many students who would stand equidistant between two bathrooms and pee their pants trying to figure out which
out
one
the
to
right
go to.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, same. I was at I always say I try so hard not to tell little bon mots about my students. But one day I'm walking down Franklin Street a couple years ago, and I hear a young student turn and say to her friends that she was scared to cross the street at the crosswalk because she wasn't used to doing it alone. Now I'm not gonna say, this is not to mock them. I'm saying, what have we made?
Right.
What have we
What's going on there?
created
Yeah.
where the risk of crossing the street is too high for some young people? And I think that is the case over and over again. It is not that people don't want to fall in love. It's that they don't want to be the one to send the message.
Yeah, it's video games. Because when I'm playing Zelda Breath of the Wild,
Violent video games.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's.
Are you being serious right now?
I'm being a little bit serious
Okay.
because I have this anxiety with this growing up when it started. But playing Zelda and you're in Hyrule, right? And do I go left or do I go right? And I would spend hours trying to figure out the right decision.
If you went right, what would have happened if I had gone left?
It would have spent 30 more hours in the game, and I
And
wouldn't
here's
have got the
thing.
map.
See, I grew up with Nintendo. I didn't like how the game was going, I just reset it.
Yeah.
So see, this is what happened when we changed the decision-making matrix. I'm with you. I think the idea that everything is path dependent, that whatever decision I made Tuesday at 2 p.m. is getting ready to set the course of my life for the next 50 years. There's some massive butterfly
There's
effect.
no reset button.
Well, no, it's just that if you cross the street and you don't like it over there, just come on back.
Well, this is my grand theory behind all this thinking is that we have convinced young people through social media, through what they can see, I mean, that they can have it all, that it's all possible. I log onto social media and I see my friends seemingly having it all, doing everything, having fun, being fully realized, and I want what I see other people having, and I've convinced myself, one, that it's real, what I'm seeing is real, and two, that it's possible for me to attain it. And then you get stuck in this place of, well, how do I know that going left will take me to that, Emerald City, or
Here's
going
the
right?
thing.
It's
Whether you went left or right never mattered in Zelda. It mattered who designed the game.
Oh, gosh. That's
our mic drop. That was
Man. Well, this is my 2008 full throat endorsement like we did back in 2008. Go have a drink.
Yeah.
Have a little ecstasy. Have some consensual sex. And
Officially
stuff
can't
will
say
be
that,
fun.
But I'm not saying no.
That goes to all the Gen Zers that are listening.
Sociality is politics too, y'all. It really is. It's the basis of everything. You got to have a relationship.
always start with one drink, 2 at the very most, 3 you're under the table, 4 you're under your host.
All right,
I don't have any of these.
This is Milo Bain stepping in here to say you got about 5 minutes left.
I know, we got a hard stop.
And nail those less really important questions that you have for
Thank you,
the
Milo.
brilliant.
Who I just want to give credit to has been on it all evening. Put the ice in my cocktail.
A gentleman and a scholar.
Yes, exactly right.
You got any rapid fire?
Well, what are you doing nowadays? I know I follow you on the social. You got an opinion. You're really good at saying no.
And kicking just flat out kicking the ass of people on social media who have the balls to violate your obvious and sane boundaries. It is a brilliant thing to watch.
Thank you, Milo.
It makes my life better.
That's on Blue Sky, right?
It is. Listen, boundaries are hard won, and if you have fought for them as hard as I fought for mine, I'm not giving it up because somebody
Watching you defend them is
online
a joy.
wants to be
From
a
your cold,
butt.
dead hands.
That's exactly right. I'm finishing the movie. We're on we think of the final cut, and we go out on the film festival circuit in like March and April of this year. Very excited about that. It is a love letter to the people who have inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing. And so I'm very, I make no promises about the quality of the film, although my director's brilliant. Holland Gallagher is brilliant, but as the producer, I had no idea what I was doing, y'all. But I've never let that stop me before, so I made a movie. I am finishing up a book, which is a memoir, which is actually kind of where the movie came out of. I couldn't find a way to fit in the story of the Panther Party to my origin story in the memoir, so I made the movie instead. I'm finishing that up. I'm on fellowship this year, the National Humanities Center, which has just been brilliant to be around brilliant people right now and to remind myself that thinkers and cultural workers do still matter. It sometimes feels like I'm not doing enough in the streets, but, you know, everybody can't be a soldier. But whatever it is you're going to be, go do that and do it really well and in community with other people. I'm getting married, so I've got a wedding coming up.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's an exclusive. That's an exclusive because we ain't doing this nowhere else, people. Just so you know, we are not those people.
That is amazing.
And so,
Congratulations.
thank you. And so that's pretty much my whole life for the next couple of years.
You moving to Kentucky?
No, look at me.
Yeah.
I mean, Milo.
Well, we're good now.
Look at me. I will drink the people's liquor, but I am still from North Carolina, god dog it.
Kentucky comes to you.
That's exact, and it does. And it does.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I'm up to, you guys.
That's wonderful.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you. It's always fun to see what you're doing. And if you're not following her, follow her. As Milo said, she puts out some brilliant stuff. And I know I look forward to every day checking the New York Times to see if there's a new opinion piece out. And when there's
didn't even
not,
get to AI.
I'm just like, frick.
Oh, thank you. You make sure you tell them that.
The
No,
number-
I do the best I can. My goal, just so everybody knows, I always try to be in there. They love it once a week. I'm there every other week. But sometimes when I'm working on a big piece like I am right now, it can take me a little longer. But yeah, that's where you'll
What's
find
the
me.
big piece about?
I realized a couple of months ago that everybody was driving their kid to school. And I'm like, what happened to the school bus? And I've been obsessed with this for a month.
That is brilliant.
Thank you, Milo.
Absolutely brilliant.
I'm close to saying something really bold, and I don't know if I'm going to get there in the piece, but that the demise of the little yellow school bus is the demise of American
I
public
don't
life.
know
I'm scared
personally
to put my kid on
how
the bus.
I don't know how to I don't know how to think through the experience of what it must be like to be a child right now.
Yeah. Same.
Not allowed to walk to school.
Yep.
In so many places.
Yep.
People calling the social services. Or
I
the
have so many
police.
people who told me this, that the police were called on them because they let their kid ride the bike to school.
This is, and you and I being Gen Xers,
Yep.
this is not our experience.
No.
We were basically, it was leave the house until the lights come on in the streets, and maybe then you might need to report back.
Yep.
But until then, our parents
You're in
said,
kid
leave
world."
us
Yeah,
alone.
right.
Yeah.
And this is not the experience of the American child. These
No,
days.
the car pickup lane is a recent invention. I started becoming obsessed with when this became a thing because I didn't remember anybody. A parent only pulled up in front of my school when I was in school if you had messed up. You missed the bus, you were late, or you were an athlete, right? But there was no line, a 5-mile line to pick up your kids.
Oh, we have our municipality now paying extra cops, not
Yep.
the school, to direct traffic
exactly
because
it.
traffic's so terrible.
Y'all, I read a recent survey that says something like 60% of teachers in American public schools spend at least 5 hours of their work week directing traffic.
Oh my!
Can you imagine
gosh.
you went to school to be a math teacher and instead you're like moving the yellow cone? Like, what the hell happened? So that's what I've been puzzling over
I
and thinking
cannot
about, Milo.
wait.
Thank you. And it happened so fast. Like, I know we're old, but we're not that old.
We aren't.
Thank you.
We
it was
aren't.
so fast. It's so fast.
Well, folks, thanks for listening. Be on the lookout for the Tressie's analysis of the writing the obituary of the Magic School Bus. It sounds like.
I'm borrowing
And-
that.
There we go. That's
Well, you just made this trip worth it. Thank you.
right. Somebody had to. And we'll be back with another episode of the Hometown Holler. And I think that's all we got for you.
Yeah, and if you're not a Patreon yet, go
Yeah.
check us out on
sure you do
Patreon.
that.
Subscribe.
Go to the
be
State
a-
Fair with us.
Be a friend of the Holler. You can go to the State Fair with us. Tressie came last year.
Yep.
And she might come this year. So sign up for that. Help us sustain, keep this studio going, and having cool people like Milo and Tressie around.
Yeah, if Tressie might go to the state fair, that means Milo might go to the state fair.
Milo
Guess
said.
what, Milo?
yeah.
Guess what, Milo? I think it might happen, my friend.
And if you're not reading our Substack, read our Substack. Milo puts something out every Wednesday, and
clockwork.
it's awesome. It's good stuff, man. But other than that, Daniel, I think I'm done.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, cheers.
Thanks, guys.